Come on, get up.
Was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances for life. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to one who stretch hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to one who we've exalted, Miriam and the women dancing the whole night long. Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her, just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We just lived through a miracle, we're sing it now. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted, Miriam and the women dancing all night long. One more. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted, Miriam and the women dancing all night long. One more, one more. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one who we've exalted, Miriam and the women dancing the whole night
Come on, get up.
Okay, hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me as well as you can hear our video. Well, happy birthday, Yom Hudaledet, I think it's pronounced. I got to think about that for a minute. Yeah, day of your birth. Have a very good one, Mazel Tov. And are you going to read from your parsha? Now, we know we have a delay here, so I'm speaking and you're not yet hearing me. So I'll wait a minute. But as you can tell, our parsha this week is V'Shelach, which is an awesome parsha. It's got lots of good, tasty, juicy things in it. And, hi, Shlomo. Yes, welcome everybody. Glad to see everyone here this evening. Hopefully all of you are in nice warm environments and you're not out in that freezing Arctic cold that seems to be hitting around the country, everybody. So the parsha we read today goes from Exodus chapter 13 verse 17 all the way through chapter 17 verse 16. And like I said, there are a lot of good juicy pieces in this reading, the most famous of which is the Song of the Sea. And I don't know if you have a Bible that shows this, so let me put mine up here. Well, happy birthday to you also, Babby. Lots of Mazel Tovs this week. And let me see if I can show you what the Hebrew type looks like in this text. This is just regular text that I'm looking at. I'll wait a minute for the video to catch up because I want to show you the regular text. And I want to make sure I've got it where you can actually see what the text looks like. Okay, so you see how the text, the Hebrew text, is written up there. It's written, we have 2 single columns and all the commentary. And those are all my penciled notes and highlighted comments and etc., etc. However, the Song of the Sea, which is, according to the scholars, one of the oldest pieces of text in the Bible, is different. It's written out differently so you can see it. And let's wait for it. Let's wait for our video to catch up to that for a moment. So I'll hold that for just a second. The scholars say that the rest of this parsha was written around this particular text, and there's actually 2 songs here. We have the opening line, which is the first song, and that's the first couple lines. See how the text is different? And then we have the second song, which is Miriam's song. And for readability, they were combined into one piece of poetry, one of the many songs in the Bible. This first song goes all the way through verse 19. It goes from verse 1 to verse 19. Verse 20 begins the second song. Right, looks like waves in the Sefer Torah, and it was written this way. And some, if you look at the way it's built, some people say it looks like bricks. Because when we stack bricks, we space sticks like a whole brick, and then on the next row up, we stack them so that the whole brick is over the space in the previous row. And so they say this text also looks like bricks to remind us that we made bricks when we were slaves or conscripted labor, whatever you want to call it, back in Egypt. And this is a text of freedom. So we're going to smash through these bricks and move forward into our future. So now, Other pieces, and so you know, of course, the Michamocha comes from this piece in the Torah. Then we have the key concept here of miracles. This was like a major miracle, the splitting of the Red Sea. And there's a couple of lessons that we can look here. First of all, we know that not everybody who left Egypt was Jewish. So this is just kind of like our rundown. Some of them were part of the mixed multitude of who knows what from who knows where. They just happened to be in Egypt and they left. So when we open at the beginning of the text, our people are on the edge of the sea, and they're kind of squished between the sea and Pharaoh's army. And here comes the army, coming down on top of the people, and the people are looking at the army, and they're looking at the sea, and they're looking at Moses, and said, "Were there no graves in Egypt that you brought us out to die in the wilderness?" That's complaint number one in this parsha. What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? And of course, they look to Moses to fix it. Then we have the second complaint. The second complaint shows up in the Midrash, not in the actual text. And the second complaint was that the children of Israel did not believe that the Egyptians died in the sea. They thought they survived the flood. Then we have our third complaint when after they cross the sea and they get to Marah where the water is bitter and the people grumbled going, "What are we going to drink? We're thirsty. We're not happy. We're thirsty. You brought us out here to die. Now give us something to drink." We turn the page, and in the wilderness, the Israelite company whined and grumbled against Moses and Aaron. So complaint number 4, the Israelites say, "If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, where we sat by our flesh pots, where we ate our fill of bread, because you did nothing but bring us out here into the wilderness to starve us. We will die of starvation here." We continue on, and we get to the manna, and Moses is telling people don't leave any of it over till morning, yada yada yada. But the people paid no attention to Moses. Some of them left it on till morning, and when they looked at it in the morning, it was infested with maggots and stank. And Moses was angry, and so we see complaint number 5. Yet some of the people went out to gather the manna on the 6th day anyway, when they were told to gather 2 portions on Friday to prepare for Shabbat, which is why we have 2 loaves of bread on our Shabbos table. And the people went out on the 7th day to gather, and they found nothing. And again, they grumbled. So in this short reading, we see 6 instances of the Israelites and the mixed multitude grumbling and whining and complaining to Moses about what they did and what they didn't have, and they expected Moses to fix it. Moses was looked at as, "Save us, although we're descended from those that were redeemed from Egypt, and we have ourselves overjoiced as our own oppressors have been overcome. Our triumph is diminished by the slaughter of the foe, because even though our joy is here, it has come at the price of someone else's life." And so in the Haggadah, when we drop the wine onto our napkin or our plates, it's because we are remembering that our freedom came at the sacrifice of other lives, of the 10 plagues. And so we see that. Now, the next thing we have going on here is part of what I wanted to talk about. And it comes because the people, here we are standing, we're back at complaint number 1 with lack of grains. Yeah, you're right, Lanny. The grumbling has yet to stop. We Jews are like in a relationship with God. We don't look at God out there and us here, and we don't need a mediator to go as a go-between. That we speak to the mediator, and the mediator takes our complaint to God. We have a frontline connection. Pick up your cell phone, dial God, there we are, right at the front desk. We don't need the receptionist. We don't need the secretary. We can bypass all the bureaucracy. And because we are in this kind of a relationship, that's what allows us to be in a place where we can have this kind of a conversation with God, and we can be direct and say, hey, we can argue with God like Moses did. We can worship God. We can argue like Abraham did. We see this happening a lot, and this is kind of the nature of the Jewish relationship with God. But here we are at the river. The grumbling this is our first of the grumblings here in the wilderness. And Moses says, have no fear, I'm going to stand by. You can stand by, you can wait. Right. God is not in some far-off heaven, Rebecca. You're correct. God is here in our house with us. Build me a sanctuary, and I will dwell within you. God is here with us. In our house, out of our house, it doesn't matter. Where we are, God is. And so Moses is going to go to God. And we see this famous line. Yeah, you get his voicemail. I get the same voicemail when I call God's cell phone too. As I teach my B'nai Mitzvah students, when I teach them to tie tefillin, we have our 3 wraps up here for the patriarchs. We have, maybe I should put my arm up so you can see it a little bit better. We have our 3 wraps on the upper arm for the patriarchs. We have our 4 wraps on our center arm here, below our elbow for the matriarchs. And then we have some wrappings around our hand, and then we have wrappings around our finger. And I tell my students that, the 3 patriarchs, that's the area code. The matriarchs and the other wrappings down here, is the cell phone number, and God's extension is the wrappings around our finger. So if you want to talk to God, even though the old folk song says, get in touch with God, turn your radio on, listen to the master radio, you can tie on tefillin and get. Oh, you're a picky eater, huh, Debbie? Yeah, I've seen your type before. As the mother of 6, I've seen picky eaters. Okay. So God says, Moses says to the people, God's going to save you. He's going to battle for you today. Just hold your peace. Just shut up. Just wait. And it's going to happen. So Moses goes to God, and here comes one of those famous lines. Why are you asking me? What do you think I'm going to do for you? This little, little ad-libbing and adding on. Why do you cry out to me? And in the Hebrew, it says, where I get the right verse here, that's 13, 14, 15, here we are. Vayomer, and said, Adonai el Moshe, to Moshe, Ma titzach Eli. Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. Get into gear. Move it forward. And you, Moses, you, lift up your rod, hold your arm out over the sea, and split it. And the Israelites will walk through on dry land. Then I will stiffen the hearts of the Egyptians. And we see that word stiffen again. And what word is it going to be? Is it going to be kaved, to weigh down like stone? Or is it going to be chazak, to gain strength? Which word I'll wait, give you an opportunity to type in what your guess is. Is the text going to use the word kaved to make the hearts of the people heavy, the Egyptians? Or is the text going to use the word chazak to gain strength in one another? Which word in the Hebrew text will be used for the translation of "is going to stiffen their hearts"? We've looked at this juxtaposition of these two words previously in this lovely story we've got. So which one this time? Let's see what you got. Chazak or kaved? Which choice do you vote in on? And then I'll tell you the one. Which one do you personally think? Don't go and look it up. This is not a go look up the answer. This is a personal opinion. Which do you think is going to happen? Is God going to strengthen the hearts of the Egyptians with chazak? Or is God going to stiffen their hearts with kaved? Okay, Babby's weighing in on chazak. So we got chazak 1, kaved 0 at this point. Next vote. How about you, Lanny? What are you going to vote for? Chazak or kaved? Okay, Shlomo wants chazak. What about you, Rebecca and Lanny? Voting for chazak or kaved? Because the one we pick changes how we understand the text. And the English stiffen their hearts doesn't tell us what's really happening. Okay, Lanny's voting in as chazak. So far it's 3 for chazak and 0 for kaved. Strengthen. Okay. Shlomo said, but it's kaved, I think. Wrong. It's chazak. The text says chazak. Ve'ani hine and mi chazak et lev. Chazak et lev. Going to strengthen their hearts. So that the Egyptians will be brave and courageous and will go into the river, go into the sea, go into the water after the Hebrew people. They will not be weighed down with their fears. They will not be weighed down with their stubbornness and their pain, but they will be, we can do this, we can win at whatever cost, and they will go in. And that will be the Egyptians' undoing, as we know, because then the Egyptians will know that God is God. So the winning choice was chazak. So we were good. Four of you, all of you, chose chazak, and you're correct. So one of the things that we can learn from this particular parsha, when Moses goes to God and says, hey, what are we going to do? You know, I need you to step up to the plate here, God. It's time for you to do something for these people. And God's like, why are you asking me? That's a very surprising answer, considering everything that God's already done and the conversations that God and Moses have had up to this point in this relationship. And how would you have felt in Moses' place going to God? I'm sure my jaw would have dropped to my feet, going, what? What do you mean? Why am I asking you? You're God. You brought us here. Now, what are you going to do with us? Are you just going to let the Egyptians destroy us? So, what do you think is going on? Any suggestions, any comments to this point? And guests, you are welcome to sign in at any time. Use your own first name or use a name you select. Just something to call you by instead of guest. Yeah, Lanny, better that God showed his might against the brave Egyptians than the stubborn. And we don't get that distinction when we read in the English translation that God stiffened the hearts of the Egyptians. It doesn't come out at all like we want it to come out. So we have to be very careful when we look at translations, and we have to remember that every translation is in essence an interpretation depending upon the words that the translator chooses. Because we have pretty much seen the English word stiffen all through the entire story so far, but it's really not stiffened in the sense of stubborn or mulehead. It's kind of back and forth. Bobby says, I'd have been pretty upset in Moses' place. Yeah, I would have been like floored. Now what do I do? But Lanny says, the beginning of the growth of Israel is united people. Well, who's going to make this decision? Suddenly, God, Moses has gone to God. God's supposed to do something, and God's like, well, why are you asking me? It's like, hello, why do you think I'm asking you? You're God. So one of the lessons that we can take away from this tale, particularly this particular piece, is there is a time for prayer and for asking, and then there is a time for action. How can you relate this to your life? Have you been in a place where prayer was the correct response and asking for assistance from somebody higher up the chain, up the channel, was the correct thing to do? But have you been in other situations where going up the hierarchy, the chain of command isn't exactly what you need to do? Instead, you need to just take action. How would that relate to your life? We're going to leave a little space here to give you some time to think about this question. I'll give you a nagoon. Give you something to listen to while you kind of think about the question. How does this balance of a time for action and a time for prayer manifest in your lives? What can you do with that? So we're seeing some comments come. Lanny says, beginning the growth of Israel's united people continues hard for newly freed people to be decisive and independent. That's very true. Shlomo says, sometimes you need to do something even if it's wrong, just try to do something. Babby adds, to give one a sense of self-determination to take responsibility. Lanny adds, Pray as if only God can help you. Act as if only you can help yourself. Pretty wise words there. Shlomo continues, like the saying, pray as if everything depends on God, but act as if everything depends on you, which is pretty much what Lanny was saying. And Rebecca says, Lanny, you took the words right out of my keyboard. Yeah. So there's a time for prayer and a time to sit back and wait, hopefully, for some kind of answer to come from God. But I have learned from experience that God doesn't necessarily give me what I want. God gives me what I need, and it's not necessarily the same thing. And sometimes it takes me a while to figure that out. So these people now are in a position of having to do something. So they're going to take a leap of faith. Sometimes you have to act on a leap of faith. Some of the instances in which this might apply is in a war situation. I don't know if we have any ex-military in here, that sometimes you sit back and you talk about tactical moves and you discuss, well, what could you do here and what could you do there, but there are instances in which you have no time for meetings, no time for, discussing possibilities, but sometimes you just have to jump in and do something. Take responsibility and handle a situation. And ex-military people would get that. And Lanny says in the movie, Oh God, John Denver asked God why his prayers aren't answered. And God answered, I hear all prayers, but sometimes the answer is no. And that's true. Sometimes the answer is no. And in essence, I think that's what we're seeing here. God is Moses is turning to God and say, God, do something. And God's like, no, it's time for you to stand up. Uh-oh, just lost me? Did anybody else just lose me? Or am I still here? Can anyone hear me humming this beautiful nigun? Or is it just Lanny who has lost me? Let's weigh in, people, and find out what do we need to do. I don't see Adi here. It might just be you, Lanny. Really, come and go. Okay, I'm back. No? Good for everybody now? You're here? Yeah. Okay. I come and go? So are you hearing what I'm saying? Let me see where my set is at. Okay, I moved it up to a -5.7. Is this bad? Is this better? Can you hear me? I'm back. Okay. So this is one of those. Yeah, now I've had that problem, and that might be a Ustream problem. So I'm not sure what to do about that one. And our friend Adi isn't here this evening. I don't see him anywhere. He's got that new apartment, so he's probably unpacking his belongings and settling in somewhat. So if we have problems, let's keep note of them, and let's let Adi know exactly what's happening so that he can go about getting it fixed for us. Okay, so this is one of those times in which God says no. Yeah, buffering. It's amazing the new vocabulary we've developed over the last 30 years. Wow, I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm back. Never can tell. Okay. So the other idea that I wanted to talk about is, the balance between prayer and action, and the fact that the people went into the river on faith. In their situation, perhaps you would or wouldn't do the same thing. Okay. That's about the manna. There was another note that I had in here. And now we see that the first set, right. Oh, let me see who it says here. We know, I know that the tale says, the angel of God who had been going ahead of the Israelite now moved and followed behind him. And Moses held his arm out over the sea. Think Charlton Heston here. Lord drove back the sea with strong east wind, and the Israelites went into the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. So Nachshon, the son Bar Aminadab, went in first according to the Midrash. And according to the Midrash, he jumped in while the water was still there. And it wasn't until he jumped in and took action that the waters then parted, which confirms the idea that the rabbis are trying to teach here and to emphasize the idea of sometimes there's a time for praying and sometimes there's the moment to just get in and get the job done. Okay, I am off the screen.